Hey everyone, I'm Nick and welcome back to the channel. Or if you're a new visitor here or a regular visitor who just hasn't subscribed yet, why not? Please click away that red subscribe button and stay up to date with all the greatest Star Trek news on YouTube. So today we're talking about episode 2 of season 4 Star Trek Discovery, entitled Anomaly. This was a really good episode. I kind of felt like this is a bit of a return to Star Trek of old, where we've got the crew going out there exploring a mysterious anomaly. There's scientific exploration. It's sort of getting back to the roots of what Starfleet and the Federation historically is kind of all about. We also got Saru back on board the ship, thank God. Thank God for that. Love Saru, awesome character, and it's great to have him back on board Discovery. Even though his job has changed just a little bit to when last we saw him. So today we're going to break down the episode, give me our review on episode 2 Anomaly, but before we get into that, here is a very quick sponsored announcement which you guys are going to really love. Ever wished you had access to a holodeck or stellar cartography just like on the Enterprise? Well, turn any room in your home into a planetarium with Galaxy Lamps Galaxy Projector 2.0, a futuristic device that fills any room with mesmerizing galactic vistas, where you'll be immersed in a universe of constellations, nebula, and star fields. Bring the night sky indoors and explore outer space from the comfort of your home. It offers full smart app integration and allows you to take full control of the projector to change color options, adjust rotation and speed, adjust brightness, set timers and schedules, even with voice control if you choose, using actual high-resolution NASA satellite imagery to produce amazing results. The Galaxy Projector is also surprisingly soothing. Pair it with some peaceful music, kick off your shoes, and feel the stress of the day melt away. The projector uses low wattage lasers and produces little to no heat. It's kid and pet friendly, so it's safe for the whole family. Just in time for Christmas, such a unique gift for your friends and family, transforming even the most boring of rooms into an intergalactic extravaganza. Check out the link in the description and use my coupon code NICK10 for an additional 10% off this amazing product. So the episode begins with Book kind of obsessing over what happened to Kwejian at the end of last week's episode, which was it getting completely blown away. He's going over tapes and recordings of what happened, and he doesn't look well at all. He's completely distraught. Burnham tries to comfort him, but he sort of doesn't want to be comforted. He just wants to kind of wallow in his depression at the moment. Next, we get a really lovely scene between Burnham and Saru. It's great to see Saru back on board the ship, and it seems like that he's here to stay, and we've had a bit of a role reversal here between these two. Saru is staying on board the Discovery. He was offered a command of his own, but he kind of didn't want to go down that road, a bit much like Commander Riker didn't want to go and sit in the captain's chair, even though the chair was pulled out for him multiple times. Saru wants to stay as Burnham's first officer, and it's sort of admirable that he's wanting to do this. He could have the ship of his own, but Burnham needs his guidance and his experience to guide her through this pretty taxing situation of the anomaly, which is threatening to wipe out a lot of planets in the galaxy. It was really quite lovely to see this scene play out. It's clear that Saru has no ambition, he has no strive to move up the ranks. He just wants to serve where he can do the most good. And at this particular moment in time, that's being Burnham's number one on board the Discovery. It doesn't bother him in the slightest that he was formerly the captain of the Discovery and Burnham was his number one. He's got no ego. He's such a lovely character. He just wants to do what the right thing is. And as a leader, these days it is few and far between where we actually get leaders who want to lead for the betterment of everybody, not just for their own political gain and their own ambition. Saru is a character that a lot of kids, I think, will be able to look up to. Next, we get the roundtable briefing happening at Starfleet headquarters, where the admirals and all the different Starfleet captains are all gathered around the table, and we get to know what's going on with this anomaly and how it's destroying planets and how it's moving and what they're going to do to solve the problem. Nobody seems to know what's going on, but they know it's pretty bad. And it's good to see in this scene we've got a bunch of different captains. We get to see our very first Ferengi captain in Discovery, which was cool, which we've kind of already got a glimpse of once before in one of the previous trailers for Discovery. And there's a Tellarite, and there's a Cardassian, and a lot of other captains around the table there, which we sort of can see in the distance. And of course, because Discovery has the spore drive, they get the first job to check it out and do the analysis, because they can jump immediately there to check out what's going on and assess the situation. It was also good to see in the scene with Saru and Burnham that Saru explained the brooch or pin that he's got on his uniform now, which is representative of him being a high-level kind of council member in the Kelpian government, I guess you'd say. So he's considered an elder and an advisor, and it's a symbol of his stature amongst his people. So I think that's kind of cool for him to have that. Worf had his sash as a Klingon, and we also had Ensign Ro and Major Kira, who had their Bajoran earrings. So why can't sort of have a brooch? Good on him. Next we get kind of a quirky interaction between Saru and Tilly, where Tilly's convinced that he's grown taller since she last saw him. It's sweet to see the ongoing relationship between these two. Obviously last season, Tilly was Saru's first officer when Burnham got booted out for doing some naughty stuff. And it's nice to see this dynamic continue between these two characters. And it was also a nice scene on the bridge when the crew welcomes Saru back. Owo says, welcome back, Captain, but Saru doesn't want to be called Captain. He just wants to be called Saru, but Burnham respects Saru too damn much to let that go unanswered, and she suggests Mr. Saru, which I think is a very nice compromise, considering Saru is now going to be the first officer on board the Discovery. I think it would be kind of weird for them to call him Captain Saru, because obviously Burnham is the commanding officer on board the Discovery now, but much in the history of past Star Trek shows, where Spock was called Mr. Spock, Picard often called Data Mr. Data and Worf Mr. Worf and so forth. We're going to be calling Saru Mr. Saru, which is a nice hark back to those other classic characters and how they were given respect but also had authority as well. And the Discovery jumps to where the Anomaly is, and this is the part of the episode which I quite enjoyed, because it sort of seems like a hark back to Star Trek episodes of old, where the crew is going out there and exploring strange new worlds, or in this case, strange new anomalies. They're, in a mission of scientific exploration to gather data on something that no one's ever seen before. It seems like we're kind of getting back to the history of what Star Trek was, that exploration of the unknown and that feeling how big and sometimes scary the galaxy can be. And things get weird. They thought this anomaly was going to be a couple of black holes kind of orbiting each other, but it's not turning out to be that at all. In fact, this is a phenomenon that nobody has ever seen before. It behaves completely unlike anything else that's been seen before, and none of our science officers seem to know what the hell's going on, which is kind of a first, because normally it's like, yes, we know the answer, we are so smart and clever, but now everyone's sort of going, this is a new one. Even though we're, 1,000 years into the future and we're, so many different Star Trek series under our belt, there are still problems that stump these guys, and it's kind of refreshing to see that from this point of view, we're treading new ground. We're going where no one has gone before, which is, it's what Star Trek is all about. And after debating who is going to fly the ship to go into the anomaly to get all the necessary scans they need to analyse what the hell's going on, we get to see a new set, which is this new Captain's Quarters set, where we see Burnham and Book discussing that he wants to fly the ship to go in there because his family and his planet has been completely blown up. He feels somewhat responsible to be the head of the piloting of the ship that goes in there to retrieve the information they need. Burnham's not so convinced, because she sort of thinks he's kind of emotionally a bit fragile at the moment and would like Detmer to pilot the ship, but Book is the obvious choice. He knows his ship so well and he would be the best choice to pilot it in there, and Saru knows that, and as does Burnham. She's just worried about him because obviously, they're partners together and everything, so there's a little bit of an emotional complication with this command decision. But cool to see Burnham's new quarters. We've got lots of couches and lots of throw pillows, lots of oranges and browns and everything. It's very earthy, warm, earthy tones in her quarters. Lots of golds. It looks like a cozy place to hang out. Next we get a scene in Medbay with Culber and Adira and Gray, and it looks like they're taking a page out of Star Trek Picard's book, where we hear that Dr. Culber is using the technique developed by Dr. Alton Inigo Soong, as we saw at the end of Star Trek Picard Season 1, where he's got a synth body standing by ready for Gray to be transplanted into that body. So it was nice to have that reference back to Star Trek Picard Season 1. Next we find out that the process of putting a human consciousness into a synth body was not a regular thing after it happened to Picard. It was attempted a few more times, but there seemed to be complications, and it seems like that this was not an ongoing thing where we saw, a whole society full of people in synth bodies. So it seems like Picard, in that sense, is unique, and it seems like that Gray is asking all the same sort of questions that Picard asked. Will I grow old? Will I die? How many years will I have? Can you please erase this mole off my hand? It's, I guess, why wouldn't you? And next we see that since the Discovery has had its refit, it is now equipped with a holodeck. We got Burnham looking out over a vista on Vulcan, where she grew up, and Saru joins her in the holodeck. We also find out during this little discussion between Saru and Burnham that the computer on board the Discovery has officially been given the name Zora. We've heard it mentioned a couple of times before in Discovery episodes, but this is the first sort of official use of it where that sort of AI that is the sphere data is taken over the Discovery's computer and is now, I guess, self-aware enough that it has been named. So in what I think is one of the first times we've had any kind of interaction between Book and Stamets, we get Stamets on board Brooke's ship in the form of a hologram, and he's going to take all the scientific readings that they need for the anomaly while Book flies his ship. And it's sort of a bit of an awkward dynamic between these two, because they both can fly the spore drive. There's sort of just a little bit of weirdness, and Stamets is kind of trying to break the ice in terms of sharing war stories about side effects. Book is clearly not in the mood. He's still pretty distraught about his planet being destroyed, and he kind of doesn't want the small chat and the little chit-chat going on between Stamets, who I think he kind of just finds a little bit irritating. And as Book and Stamets are flying into the anomaly, Book starts to have these sort of weird hallucinations, I guess you'd call them, where he's imagining the birds hitting the windscreen of his ship, much like they did just before his planet got destroyed. And he's also having weird visions of his nephew, Leto, running around the corridors of his ship. Next, we get a cool scene where the ship gets hit with a gravitational shockwave that basically has the ship losing artificial gravity. I think this is one of the few times, apart from maybe in Star Trek VI Undiscovered Country, when we've actually seen in a live-action Star Trek series some sort of catastrophe that's hit the ship that's caused complete gravity failure on board the ship. We've got it before in animated Star Trek. I think we've seen it before perhaps in Lower Decks or certainly in Prodigy. But I've always thought in Star Trek, when you're watching these ships get smashed around and they're getting in huge phaser fights and getting pummeled with photon torpedoes, and everything's blowing up all around them, but no matter what happens, the ship still maintains artificial gravity. Well, that isn't the case in this episode. In fact, we get to see on a couple of occasions the ship that loses complete gravity control, and we've got crew members flying through the air in the bridge, hitting the ground, taking injuries as a result. It's one of the first times we've kind of seen this in any great extent in a Star Trek episode, and I thought that was a really nice addition. One thing that tends to happen in these sort of Star Trek episodes when we have explosions going off on the bridge, if you look at the actual debris that scatters the ground when you've got explosions going off, in film, when normally these things happen, it's exterior, and what they use is chunks of cork that is blasted out of an air cannon to create the impression of debris, which works well if you're outdoors and you've got a part of a building blowing up or whatever, where it's logical to have chunks of concrete and dirt and dust and everything. But on the bridge of a starship, when consoles blow up, it seems a bit odd that we've got chunks of rock and dirt and so forth on the ground. It sort of doesn't really kind of fit. So I'm surprised the visual effects person who was doing explosions and so forth didn't put some sort of matter into his explosives that was kind of a bit more consistent with what you would expect an exploding console to produce. Because it certainly does look like there's a bunch of dirt and rocks on the ground in the bridge here. And everybody's taking a lot of damage on the bridge here. We've got all this gravity being lost. We've got people hitting the deck, people with bloody mouths. We've got Tilly with a big gash on her chin, Burnham with her head split open, and Culber's just going around the bridge with a dermal regenerator, zapping everybody in the head to fix their various injuries. And as Saru says, well done, Commander Bryce, for giving us a little tip on your little kite surfing hobby that you've done before, that we could replicate the riding of the waves out of the anomaly. So yeah, nice little surfing analogy implied here that gets them out of, the biggest of jams. And everybody's happy that Book got out of there in one piece and that the data from the Anomaly is safe aboard his ship. I kind of felt like this episode, Adira came across maybe a little bit more nerdy or geeky than they have in previous episodes. I remember in the last season of Discovery, they were really very confident. They knew what they were doing. They had incredible scientific knowledge. Now they seem very awkward, very unsure of themselves. Few interactions that were, I think, nervous and awkward, which seems a little bit unlike Adira. They were very clever and very confident last season. And after Book and Hologram Stamets get back safely, Tilly has a bit of a conversation with Culber in the hallway where it seems like things have been weighing on her. Obviously, she went through the whole situation last season with losing the ship to Osira. She kind of had that issue on the space station where one of the commander of the space station got killed. So she needs to talk to somebody about her various issues and so forth. So it seems like Culber is going to be putting his counselor hat on in future episodes to help Tilly through whatever she's going through. And at the end, Tilly tells Saru that the reason they kept getting hit by all the different waves of energy from the Anomaly was the fact that even though they were staying still, Anomaly was changing directions, which was very unexpected. They kind of assumed it would be like an asteroid or a comet that, you know, is basically just on the same course. It doesn't vary. It's going in a straight line. But this isn't the case. This Anomaly is moving around and changing course and changing direction randomly, which means any planet can be hit at any time and there's no way of telling who's in danger and who isn't. So that's very troubling, and these guys have got their job cut out for them. I quite enjoyed this second episode of Discovery Season 4, Anomaly. It definitely felt like an old Star Trek episode to me with the whole scientific exploration thing. We're going out, we're exploring uncharted parts of the galaxy and seeing different phenomenon that we haven't seen before. I think that was a good step on the behalf of the show, and I think it's kind of now that we've got our original cast back on the bridge with Saru on there as well, and he's now taking up the first officer's role, it's feeling like a little bit more along the lines of a typical Star Trek episode, I think, which is a good thing. Guys, let me know what your thoughts were on this episode. Leave your thoughts in the comment section. Please check out the Galaxy Projector. Great deal at the moment with Black Friday sales and everything, but make sure you use the link in my description to get there. That'd be much appreciated. Leave a super thanks if you're able to, and share, like, subscribe, and check out my merch. Got some new merch stuff in the merch store, t-shirts and stuff. I'll be back soon for my next video. I'll see you guys soon.